Welcome everybody to my music corner of the world. My name is John Clauser. Uh, I apologize for the extremely wet, slick back hair. Unfortunately, I've been in COVID quarantine for the last few days, so yeah, and that's kind of bummed me out. But I wanted to get on here, and I really just kind of wanted to um, talk about something that I got to experience recently. Um, and this is also going to be kind of a thank you to getting 100 subscribers to my channel. Thank you. Really, you have no idea. I know I'm a little over 100 now, but I just want to thank you for that. It really means a lot to me. But so I want to talk about um, November 25th, 2022. Something I never thought I would get to do. Um, for many years, I have loved the band Wasp. And I waited for a long time thinking I would never get to see them. I got close a couple times, but I never got to see them in concert. And I always kind of had this dream and almost prayer, really, to even meet Blackie Lawless, because his voice and his lyrics for a good chunk of my life have been kind of the soundtrack. And so to be able to say, and I'm going to switch the background real quick, to know that I got to meet Blackie Lawless and got a picture with him. Got to even give him a question during a Q&A. Um, that was a dream come true. That was a prayer answered for me. Um, so it all started with the first album. And I've told this story. You've heard me tell this story. For anybody who's new, welcome to hearing this story. But it was late January 1985, and um, my buddies Mike and Dave, we were all supposed to go see um, Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister in concert at Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, up at the Stabler Arena. And we found out that the concert had been canceled or postponed a few days earlier. Uh, we learned that the band had been sick and about 4 dates had been canceled. They would eventually make that date up on June 1st, 1985. The three of us, though, decided to still get together, and we just kind of had a little sleepover weekend kind of thing. And we went to the mall, and we would go to, um, we would get some new music. We were not familiar with Twisted Sister's previous albums, Under the Blade and You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. So Mike and Dave got those cassettes respectively. Mike got Under the Blade and Dave got You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. And I was like, well, what am I gonna get? I want to pick up something new and different. Something. And so Dave told me, hey, I heard about this band in Circus and Hip Raider called Wasp. And I think you might like them. So I was like, okay. So I would go to the mall at the time had three um, music stores, listening booth. I think another version like listening booth plus maybe, and wall to wall sound, all kind of tied together. Well, I would eventually find the Wasp cassette at uh, wall to wall sound. So I picked it up, and we all took turns. Once we got back to Dave's house, we all took turns listening to it. We did Under the Blade first, and we're like, "Wow, this is awesome!" We really liked that album by Twisted Sister. I still think it's probably their. I still love that album. Of course, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, also a very good album. Definitely much different than Stay Hungry. So that was really cool. And then it was my turn to put Wasp on. And soon as Tony Richards hit that drum intro, man, it was off to the races. And I found my band. I'd listened to that album incessantly, to the point where the cassette actually um, got stuck. You couldn't, it wouldn't play. It would like drag or something. Like some of the spindles had gotten worn down. So, um, but it was like Blackie was like tuned into my head, and each subsequent album would kind of see how what I was feeling and thinking. The Last Command would do the same thing. Inside the Electric Circus would do the same. I felt the energy of Live in the Raw, and then Headless Children would come out, and that took Wasp in a totally different direction for me, and I loved it. Um, Especially there's certain songs that especially I love very much, but it definitely was still honed in, and it was there. Um, I'd miss them for a while, until I heard the rumblings of them coming out with a new album, Crimson Idol, and yeah, that's him. That's his signature on this one. I love Crimson Idol. This is probably my favorite album by the band. I resonated with the thought of wanting to have that rock and roll dream come true. Um, I loved my parents and my family, so that I didn't have that to do with the story. But I think what, how could I have, what would happen? What would have happened if I had gotten involved in the music business and actually did get popular? Would I have fallen into those traps of um, stardom and fame? Would I have gotten the booze? Would I have gotten the drugs? The women, sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's what it's all about, right? Um, I want to show off a shirt here that I got. So this was one of the shirts that I picked up at the show. Um, I actually have a couple on order. Um, I didn't want to take a chance with the merch possibilities being limited. So, and you can see there's a hoodie on my seat over there, and I didn't, I'm not a big hoodie guy, but I wanted to get this one, and I'm really glad I did because I love it. Um, so, um, but I loved Crimson Idol, and I got, all the while I'm getting like all their singles, all of their, um, anything I could get. There were times I think I even had the CD, the vinyl, and the cassettes of everything. You know, um, but I was trying to find all the 12-inch singles and stuff like that, and I was just really going nuts with just because I wanted to get all this stuff. We'd wait another few years, and we would get Still Not Black Enough, which I still love. Uh, there again, there were songs that connected deeply with me. Um, I loved his version of "Somebody to Love" from Jefferson Airplane. I thought that was a great song. Um, the ballads, there's so many great songs on that album. Um, it seemed a little maybe disjointed, but I didn't really notice that at the time, and it's just became a very, again, one that I liked very much. I sought out the CD singles, um, and their B sides. He does a B side of, he does a remake of like Whole Lot of Rosie. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. No, no, no. Excuse me. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Excuse me. Um, but oh yeah, this was also cool to have. Very cool signed VIP laminate. Um, Another couple years would go by. I would find out Chris Holmes was back in the band, and they would come out with an album called KFD. Um, 1997 was a tough year for me. I was the first year I got on the internet, and I discovered a lot of bad things about the internet and bad things about myself and things that I was capable of doing. And it put me in a really dark place um, throughout the summer and into the fall. And KFD was a soundtrack, but I'm not going to blame Blackie or the band for that. It's my responsibility. I own up to that. I own up to the decisions and the choices that I made. Um, I'm not proud of any of them. It turned my life upside down, turned a lot of other people's lives upside down. And that's not something that I've ever been happy with throughout my life. To a point where I wasn't sure if I was going to make it to the end of 1997. I had a lot of depression and I was struggling. And I ultimately walked away from W.A.S.P and a lot of things. Um, I was given a new lease on life and I just walked away from so much. And I saw the band would come out with a few more albums, about six to be honest, in total. They would come out with Eldorado. They would come out with Dying for the World, Unholy Terror, Neon God Part 1 and Part 2, and Dominator. I'd see these albums in stores, but I passed them by. I was afraid of going back to those places where I didn't want to be. The wounds were still pretty fresh. So I was kind of scared to go back there. Till about 2009. And I'm reading in this magazine called Heaven's Metal. And in this one magazine, they were reviewing an album by W.A.S.P called Babylon. And my first thought was, well, what's what's W.A.S.P doing in Heaven's Metal? And then I read the review. I'm like, huh, wow. To put a biblical term on it, it was like my heart leapt in my soul the way John the Baptist did in his mother's womb when Jesus and Mary were nearby. When Mary was visiting John's mother, John the Baptist's mother, and Mary was carrying Jesus in her womb. And John knew that Jesus was there and leapt for joy. And that's about how my heart was. I had my band back. And I got Babylon and I loved it. Um, it was good to hear Babylon's Burning and some of the songs that was on that album. I felt this connection that there was something good happening with Blackie, and I it made me happy. Um, Golgotha would come out a few years later, about 6 years later, and I was looking forward to listening to it. And as soon as I heard the title track, my hairs on the back of my neck just stood up because hearing Blackie sing, "Jesus, I need you now, free me, I'm lost somehow." You know, I've been that person. I was that person. I was lost, and I needed to be found. And I did cry out, and I was saved. So hearing that album and where Blackie was going really made my heart jump for joy. I could only hope and pray that he was going to tour with that album. Unfortunately, he never did because promoters didn't believe in him, and it's a shame. Um, Then redo he would re-record Crimson Idol, call it Re-Idolized. Yes, he signed this baby for me too. I love the new version too. I love the extra musical interludes. I love the extra songs. Even the cleaned up lyrics don't bother me. Um, I went back and I picked up those six albums that I missed out on. I love Eldorado. It's probably my least favorite. It's not the one I go to that much, but I do like some songs. I like Damnation Angels. I think Cocaine Cowboys. There's a couple of others. Eldorado. I think there's some good songs there. Dying for the World certainly has some good songs. Unholy Terror. Um, just was listening to Neon God again. Just I really that's an album that's a story I need to spend time with. Um, Dominator is a great album with Heaven's Hung in Black, and Heaven's Blessed, Mercy. I mean, it's another solid album. Of course, Babylon would kind of follow in that vein, in that vein rather, not rain, vein. And same with Golgotha. Um, but I never thought I'd get to see them in concert. I never thought that day would come. So when I learned in early January, um, and yes, I'm going to put this back up because I'm really proud of this. When I learned in January, early January, that the tickets were going to go on sale, and I saw they were playing over in Atlanta, I'm like, I don't care what I got to do, I'm going. I saw it was Black Friday weekend, which I thought, well, guess what I'm doing? I'm putting that time in off work, and I'm booking me a hotel room. I got the ticket. There was nothing stopping me. And then I think it was about 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I learned they were doing meet and greets, and I thought, oh my gosh, wow! I don't care how much it is. I'm going. I'm gonna be there. I would love to have everything that you've heard me tell Blackie or hear me say in this video, especially in the beginning. I wish I could have told Blackie during my Q&A part. Um, they were running a little bit behind, and they wanted to give everybody a chance. And so I edited my own question down. Basically, I just asked him about um, encouragement. I really wanted to ask him encouragement from fans. If he got fans that would come up to him and say, "Hey, God bless you, Blackie," or something like that. That's kind of really where I wanted to go with it. But anyway, Blackie was there from when I was a very young 15-year-old, and even though it was some dark times in my late 20s, and yeah, I would walk away, but I came back because I saw where he was, and I've been on that same type of faith journey that he's been on. So to be able to be a part of that means a lot to me, and I was able to thank him for that. Just thank him for being the soundtrack. So we get into the show, and I've heard a lot of talk about backing tracks and stuff, but you know what? I don't care. Didn't matter to me. As soon as On Your Knees hit, it was like that 15-year-old listening to that tape for the first time again. And when I would listen to that album, whether at home or in the car when I would drive or whatever, the medley would go On Your Knees, to the flame to the torture never stops. Again, all three songs from the first album, songs that I sung many a time in the car and in my home, in my ears, all these different things. And I loved, I sang with every word, and I wasn't paying the least bit of attention to backing tracks. That didn't matter. Of course, the medley ends with Inside the Electric Circus, which again, love that. I love that song. Great, great song to that album. They go into Love Machine, which again, how many times did I sing that at home, in my Walkman, in the car? Um, and then, of course, they go to Wild Child, which I've been known to do a lot of theatrics to that song. And um, and it amplified it at the show. I probably looked stupid doing it, but I didn't care. I didn't care. Um, and then we got three songs from, can't see it, but can't see it, but the Crimson Idol. We get three songs from Crimson Idol, and three of probably my favorite songs. Um, The Idol, Great Misconception of Me, and Chainsaw Charlie. I mean, I love the whole album, but those three songs, and of course, with The Idol, it was great because you got to watch Blackie and Mike Duda, the bass player, walk off stage, and Doug Blair, the guitar player, got to shine with a longer extended solo, which was awesome. Um, I wish I would have recorded that, but I was just so happy to just be living in the moment. Um, so we get all that. We get Blind in Texas, which again, great, great track from Last Command. We get a little break, and then they come back with this intro video talking about censorship and the PMRC, which of course leads into Animal, their very infamous track from the early days. Um, while I got why he didn't want to play the song, I would have been okay if he didn't. It really didn't make a difference to me, but I know it was kind of like 40 years live, back to the beginning kind of thing. I'm like, well, I guess he's gonna have to play it. And I confess, yeah, I became that 15-year-old kid again, and I was singing the words. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't sing the main line. I don't think I got to do that. But then it goes into the real me, Headless Children, which um, I don't know. I guess I could see why they paired those two together. Real Me was, I like Real Me, but it's never been, over the years. It's never been one of my, kind of been a CD skipper for me. But it was still really well done. Mike did an amazing version of it on bass, because it really is a bass player song. And of course they finish off with the track that started all off for me, which was "I Want to Be Somebody." And man, it was so good to be at that show. Um, it was awesome. I it's a day I'm never going to forget. I still don't know if I have the words to properly describe that day in its entirety, but I'm grateful. Blackie, thank you. To Jay and to Michael and all of the people who were involved, thank you. To Doug, to Mike, and to Achilles, thank you. To Tony, to Chris, to Randy, to Steve, to Johnny, to Daryl, to Frankie Benali, to Bob Kulick, um, to Stet, to Mike Dookie, um, to I'll even go back as far as Don Costa and Rick Fox, and anybody else who was coming in and out of the band before they solidified the lineup. Um, Thank you. Um, I always say I never can explain why I like the band so much, but they just tapped into my psyche, and that's just it's just they've always connected with me in ways that I can't explain sometimes. But so, with that said, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. Thank you again to my 100+ subscribers to my channel. Um, I look forward to getting healthy. I look forward to the after Christmas rush season at work, and hopefully I can start putting some more content up for you all. Um, Thank you, Blackie. Thank you. This is John Clauser from my Music Corner of the World. I will catch you soon.